Did the XRP Ledger just blast its way into the number 2 spot on a major metric out of nowhere? And not just any metric one that, especially in the last market cycle, actually served as a strong signal for which coins were likely to smash through old all-time highs and even push way beyond. Well, what I'm talking about, and many of you might have caught this making the rounds in the XRP community on social media yesterday, is the claim that roughly $1 billion worth of real-world assets just got tokenized on the XRP Ledger. Now, as is often the case in crypto news, there's a mix of truth and exaggeration in what's being shared. But make no mistake, the bigger picture here is overwhelmingly bullish for XRP. Right out of the gate, I'll tell you this: what happened is absolutely real, and it proves without question that the XRP Ledger is seeing a dramatic jump in real-world utility, especially when it comes to tokenizing assets. This is the kind of development that actually matters. It's something that will continue to shape XRP's story over time. Mark my words on that. In this video, I'll break down exactly what really happened, what parts people got right, and where some details were a bit off. Now, before I go further, I do want to make something clear. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't have a professional background in finance, and nothing I say should be taken as investment advice. Please don't make buying or selling decisions based on my content. I'm just a crypto enthusiast who enjoys making these videos as a hobby, purely for fun. So yesterday, when this story first started circulating, I came across one of the earliest reports on it, and honestly, my first thought was, wow, this sounds almost too good to be true. Anytime I see something that seems a little too fantastic, I step back and wait. Sometimes, sure, the news turns out accurate. Other times, it's partly true. And of course, sometimes it ends up being complete nonsense. Thankfully, this one was not that third option. So, I came across this article on ICO Bench, and they had a section pointing out that the XRP Ledger just crossed the $1 billion mark in tokenized real-world assets (RWAs). The crypto community was buzzing about it, and according to the data, XRP is now sitting as the third largest network in this category, holding around 7.6% market share. Here's the kicker though. The only two ahead of it are Ethereum and ZK Sync. But keep in mind, Ethereum is the only other true layer 1 in that list. ZK Sync isn't. Which means, if you're only comparing layer 1's, XRP Ledger actually comes in second, behind Ethereum, not third. Pretty wild when you think about it. And you can actually see this in the RWA leaderboard screenshot that was floating around. I'll pull it up myself in just a minute so you can see exactly how it looks now. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Most of that total value locked TVL, and remember, that's the main metric I was talking about earlier in this video, is coming from a single decentralized protocol called Vert Capital. It's a Brazilian securitization firm that launched a tokenized private credit platform on the XRP Ledger just this past July. And get this, they alone have funneled over $900 million in capital onto the network. That's huge. Because TVL isn't just a random number. Last cycle, it was a massive leading indicator of which coins were about to absolutely rip. The higher the TVL, the more money gets pulled into the ecosystem. It's like a magnet for liquidity. Maybe like moths to a flame isn't the perfect analogy here, but you get my point. Big money goes where the activity is. And honestly, real-world assets could end up being as transformative for crypto as staking was when proof-of-stake networks first took off a few years back. We're talking about a market that analysts say could eventually surpass $30 trillion. Once things like treasuries, stocks, commodities, and more are fully tokenized on blockchain. I've been banging this drum since the very early days of my channel. In fact, I launched back in December 2018, and even then the XRP community already understood where this was headed years before I even got into crypto myself. They knew tokenization of real-world assets on public ledgers like XRP was inevitable. Fast forward to today, 2025, and it's finally happening. The XRP Ledger has been around for 13 years, and now it's stepping into this new phase of adoption. And, honestly, it's a very big deal. Naturally, A lot of people were fired up when this news started making the rounds yesterday. And honestly, for good reason. Minds were blown all over the place. Take this example. Nick, aka Crypto Crusader, posted yesterday saying something like, "Whoa, I'm sure if this is just a glitch on RWA, Ziz, but ZERP's total on-chain RWA value just shot past $1 billion. That technically makes XRP the second largest layer 1 by RWA, since ZixInc is a layer 2. And he's right, this shows how quickly things can shift in the tokenization space. Now, I actually really get where Nick's coming from, because that's exactly how I think when I hear a claim this big. My default reaction is always, okay, but can you prove it? Here's the thing, if somebody makes a small claim in everyday life, like if I meet you and you tell me you've got a dog named Henry, I'll probably just roll with it. I'll even tell other people, yeah, this person's dog is Henry. Do I know for sure? No, but it's not a life-altering claim, and it'd be pretty random to lie about something like that anyway. That's just how we function as humans. We don't fact-check every little statement because society would fall apart if we did. For small, harmless claims, we default to assuming truth. But when the claims get bigger, like this one about $1 billion suddenly tokenized on the XRP Ledger, that's a whole different story. For something that major, I'm slamming on the brakes. I need receipts. Show me the evidence before I start repeating it as fact. So I completely understand Nick's first reaction being, wait, is this a glitch? That's exactly the right mindset to have when something this huge pops up out of nowhere. Here's another reaction, this one from fellow XRP YouTuber Kevin Cage. He posted something like, holy crap, did the XRP Ledger really just jump from $175 million to $1.13 billion in real-world asset value? Am I reading that right? And honestly, that's a totally fair reaction. Going from $175 million all the way to $1.13 billion, that's a massive leap. You can see why the skepticism came in. Now, digging into it, the source of that spike was indeed Vert Capital, just like the article mentioned. That part checks out, and it's not as if this came completely out of nowhere either. We already knew Vert Capital had plans to bring big money into both the XRP Ledger and also XE. There were headlines about this back in July. For example, here's one from July 23rd. Brazil's Vert launches tokenized credit platform on XRP Ledger with $130 million issuance. So it was clear they were gearing up to move serious capital onto the network. And now, we're watching that play out. We already knew big things were on the way, and Kevin Cage really summed it up well in another post he made. He pointed out that everybody mocked the XRP Ledger when it first started adding tokenized value through RWA, even though tokenization has literally been part of the protocol since day one. Now here we are, sitting in the number 3 spot for tokenized value, and that's without even counting stablecoins. And that's a really important detail I haven't mentioned yet. These numbers don't include stablecoins like RLUST or USDC. None of that is factored in, which makes the figures we're already seeing even more impressive. Kevin went on to say that we're still early, and adoption of both RWA and stablecoins will only continue to accelerate. He highlighted the Genius Act, which establishes a federal framework for stablecoins, and noted that similar regulations will come for real-world assets as well. And I completely agree with him. In the long run, pretty much every financial asset under the sun is going to be tokenized: equities, bonds, commodities, you name it. It's always made sense, and now we're actually watching it happen in real time. It's genuinely exciting to see this vision starting to unfold. So here's where things really settled. The story wasn't quite as massive as we all first thought. The direction of the news was correct, just not the dollar figure. Dom, co-founder of EZA, which is building on the XRP Ledger, was actually the first person I saw set the record straight. And I've got to give him credit because he nailed it. Like I mentioned earlier, I was skeptical from the beginning. Over $1 billion overnight? If that turned out to be true, amazing, I'd be shouting from the rooftops. But I had to hit the brakes until WEC knew for sure. Dom explained that the sudden 1+ billion number came from a reporting error. The value was supposed to be listed in Brazilian reais, not US dollars. When it got converted incorrectly, it made the total look way larger than reality. The actual increase was closer to $200 million. Now, I just say, even at $200 million, that's still massive. That's a gigantic jump in tokenized assets, basically overnight. So, yeah, $1.13 billion would have been even flashier, but $200 million is nothing to scoff at. If that figure had been the headline from the start, I'd still have said, whoa, really? That's huge. So I don't fault anyone for sharing the early reports and adding some skepticism. That's exactly how we should operate as a community. Share what's known, question it, and then adjust as the facts become clearer. And now, if you check the RWA leaderboard, it's reporting correctly about $307 million in tokenized real-world assets on the XRP Ledger excluding stablecoins. That currently puts XRP Ledger at number 9. Think about that. After years of dealing with the SEC lawsuit which absolutely slowed down funding, development, and adoption, XRP Ledger is still standing strong and already ranking in the top 10. And honestly, this is just the beginning. Here's why I say that. Ripple has already confirmed that Hidden Road, one of the world's largest prime brokerages, plans to tokenize its $3 trillion in annual transactions on the XRP Ledger. That's not on the board yet. Once it is, XRP Ledger could rocket up this list in a massive way. And most people in crypto don't even know that announcement exists. Even just that one use case alone would be enough to cement XRP's relevance for decades. And of course, there are many other use cases beyond that. That's why, as an XRP holder, I feel like I'm floating on cloud 9. Everything we believed about XRP for years is unfolding right in front of us. We were right, and history is proving it. This space is still young, but the potential here is life-changing. Where XRP is today is nothing compared to where it will be in a decade. Despite all the challenges, XRP has always stayed near the top of the crypto rankings. And with adoption accelerating, the future looks even brighter. So yeah, would a $1.13 billion overnight jump have been more jaw-dropping? Of course. But a $200 million surge overnight? I'll take that every single time. Still phenomenal news. And just to wrap it up, I'm not a financial advisor. None of this is financial advice. Don't buy or sell anything just because of what I say. I'm just a crypto enthusiast sharing the ride with you.